Thank you, Jerry. I live long enough, I might meet the fellow you just introduced. I asked myself, why would you folks want a 94-year-old come and talk to you? I thought of a lot of things, but I couldn't come with an answer. I just couldn't understand it. I confronted my life and said it was full of good and bad days. When you live 94 years, I think you know what I'm talking about. Much like a CORVAIR restoration that mimics making a purse out of a sow's ear. I do know some basics of what you fellows do. The two older sons, we made a complete restoration of a 1950 Pontiac Chieftain. It was quite a job. Of course, they had a dad at that time was in charge of all parts and accessories for Chevrolet. But the accomplishment really was keeping two Hunyaks off the street. And it paid off in that respect. Because the car sold for about half of what we put in. I'll tell you what my allotted time permits, and I must tell you a true story that changed me, changed the Chevrolet Motor Division, and even General Motors. I can't cover all the problems of Chevrolet, and specifically Chevrolet's air conditioning, but I want to tell you a few things about it. I found myself in 1955 with a brand new Chevrolet anniversary model, marking the 50th anniversary of Chevrolet Motor Division. I had been writing letters to the Chevrolet Central Office. At that time I was a manager in Oklahoma City, and I wasn't getting anywhere. They had a very poor air conditioner. That was the first year of a factory installed air conditioner put on in the fall of 1954. Somehow they designed a firewall that had a plenum welded to it that to eliminate yards of plastic corrugated piping going to the defrosters. They attempted to do all the defrosters through the metal in the plenum. But somehow they included the heater and the air conditioning together. Any of you old enough might remember that you had to keep antifreeze in that car year round. Also, it did not give the dealers what they wanted. They had been clamoring, screaming for a package that would mimic the factory install unit. So if they had one air conditioner, they had 20 cars, they could put that air conditioner on any one of them, because we had not reached the point to where that air conditioning was that popular among the public. I wrote enough letters that finally Fisher body did make a few changes for 1957, all of them worse. They did accomplish one thing. I've been screaming to change the air inside of that cabin 3 times a minute, and they accomplished that. But the rest of the changes they made were terrible. My dealers still were screaming. They wanted that install unit in the worst kind of way. Many of you remember that John Patterson had left Packard, and he knew more about air conditioning than anybody alive, at least for automotive use. And I've met John in Fort Worth on several occasions, and he imparted some of that knowledge to me. Also took some courses in refrigeration hopeful that maybe I might somehow get Chevrolet Engineering riled up enough that they might make some changes that would benefit the dealers. Well, we went through a period there, the old air conditioner for the dealer, that would be the same as the factory unit. Now, we did bring out Cool Pack. Any of you remember the Cool Pack? The Cool Pack was an appendage underneath the dash, much like the radio on the 500, 700 CORVAIR series. There's a story behind that. When I first got this Chevrolet Central Office in 1957, I was called into the sales manager's office, General Sales Manager Bill Fish, and he told me, he says, this job that Cole has got for you is going to put you in a position where that you're going to want to do some things on the CORVAIR. He says, I want you to lay off of it. He says, we can't tolerate any accessories, not even a radio, he said. I didn't understand it. I went downstairs and talked to Cole. And he says, that's right. He says, we're in terrible shape. We're trying to come up with an import fighter, and we've got to sell the things for under $2,000 for this price. So he said, you're out of the picture. He said, don't you sick your people on trying to put accessories on that car. Yes, sir. Back to work. But you know, we did install a factory air conditioner in Oklahoma City by taking all the production parts. We got a plant manager to cooperate. He gathers up all the parts that we use and shipped them down to downtown Chevrolet, and they installed one in 7 hours. Not a time, but you know, the thing worked. There's no one there thought it would, but it did. It worked as good as the factory unit. On August 1st, 1956, I think they got tired of my letters and Central Office promoted me. I went to a brand new region in Denver, Colorado. Didn't even have office space at the time. 762 dealers. For a guy that started out in a district in Albuquerque, New Mexico with 21 dealers. Gone from home 6 days a week. My wife raised our kids. I didn't. I wasn't there. Since I've given you this background, I've got to tell you the story that changed things. Big change for me. Chevrolet and the Ministry of the Corporation. I can't remember the exact dates in 1957, but Ed Cole calls me on the phone and says he was the chief engineer for Chevrolet at the time. He called me and he says, I'm coming out to the little test facility we have there at Pikes Peak at Colorado Springs, and he says, I'll expect you to meet me at the airport and drive me down. I said, fine. I showed up, got in the car, headed for Pikes Peak and facility there. I got his suitcase in the car okay. We took off. I was anxious to give him my air conditioning story. Here's the chief engineer. Boy, I've got an excellent opportunity to do it. I've been writing letters and they were sick of them. Some people said you're crazy. But I knew by that time what we needed. And I was anxious to tell the story. But you know, that guy cut me off. He turned to me and he says, you know, you've been writing letters, he said, and sales asked me to talk to you about that. I said, well, sir, and I called him Mr. at that time. I said, Mr. Cole, I said, we don't have the product. We don't have anything. We're letting the whole market pass us up. I said, the aftermarket people are running that. They're putting air conditioning in the trunks. They're putting them everywhere. I said, I wouldn't surprise me to see one on the roof. But I said, we're doing nothing, we're just sitting. The stuff we've got is trouble. He said, well, you got one on this car? I said, yes. And I pulled the car with stop. I raised the hood, he jumped out. There was a corrugated plastic, black plastic pipe that run from the evaporator core right up to the front. No filter, anything in there, but it's right on the side of the radiator, just a big hole. I reached my hand in there, reached my hand in and pulled out and dumped on the left front fender a pile of bees, insects, bugs, and so forth. And he said, Jim, he says, you're going to get stung. I said, no, the customer got stung, $407 worth. Well, get back in the car. He says, this is going to be corrected. I said, I hope so. I said, I've been writing letters for years. I said, we're not getting it. I said, now you're the chief engineer. And I don't know who you report to exactly, but I can tell you one thing, if you reported to me, you'd be derelict of duty. Oh, he says, don't you worry about it, we're going to take care of this. I did not know what he was going to the Pikes Peak for. But it turned out, going down there to run some tests on the CORVAIR, up and down Pikes Peak. He said, he talked his arm off asking me questions all the way down there. And I got down there, we checked in the Broadmoor Hotel. He said, now you stay here with me, I want to talk to you. And I never had so many questions given to me in my entire life. That man asked every single question you could ever imagine about air conditioning. And not only that, where did I get my information from? Who had I been talking to? And what did the dealers think? And so forth. Now see, here's an engineer. He didn't have the slightest idea what the dealers wanted. He didn't have the slightest idea. But he remembered the bees and the bugs. I told him that the dealers were going to lose faith with us completely. The aftermarket was going ahead in their air conditioning. They'd gone so far that they were running some of our engines too. They had, a Lawson lawnmower motor as a compressor. That's really what it was. They just snaked down one of the valves and made a compressor out of it. And to make that thing go, what they would do was put a belt on it made by Dayton with steel wires running through it. Now to keep it from squeaking on that compressor, what they would do was just tighten that joker up. And the front main bearings would go. And who paid for it? Chevrolet Motor Division and General Motors. All through this, he asked me to stay. And what he was there on the CORVAIR for, he brought 7 guys down to drive 7 CORVAIRs up and down to Pikes Peak. And they did it all morning long, on Saturday morning. And then he had them make out a report, exactly how the thing's handled in the curves, speed, so on. Had lunch. He said he thanked them for all the work they'd done that morning. You know, you guys really drove those things up and down that mountain. He said, I think we'd better do it again this afternoon. They drive the same car. He said, this is so much money involved in the suspension of this car. We've got to go up and down this hill and get this right. What the fellows that drove the car didn't know, while they ate lunch, a bevy of mechanics had been gathered by somebody, took all the suspension off. Those guys were not given time to go. They had people drive their cars up there to the porte-cochere of the hotel, and they just rushed from the dinner right out and got in the cars, and while they go up again, now they had to make the same report out again. I hate to tell you this, but reports came in the same as the morning reports. Cole did not tell them anything about the comparison of the two reports. He just said we were going to have to make some decisions about this, and they were dismissed. But all that weekend, he talked to me about air conditioning too. Every time he was not talking to these engineers about the suspension, I felt I answered this question. I know one thing, he got the truth. I had balled up enough that I was going to tell him the truth, come hell or high water. And he really got it. What I didn't know, I had been sent to Denver to be there 5 years. My wife herself had bought a beautiful home in Lakewood, and she had already torn down one wall in that house. But what happens, the telephone rings, and they said, "What are you doing in Denver?" I said, "Well, I was sent here to be here 5 years." They said, no, you better get your fanny in here. You're the new air conditioning czar." So that started. And I was able to assemble a group of heat exchange engineers, something that Chevrolet didn't have, Harrison Radiator didn't have, Frigidaire had some, but they knew how to make refrigerators, and that was about it. They really made a good refrigerator. But it was a real changing time for me. You know, we hadn't even got the boxes open from the stuff that shipped in there from Oklahoma City. They even shipped our garbage with us that time too. Cole became a good friend out of all this. He was chief engineer at the time. But by the time I got in the central office, would you know it, he was made vice president and general manager. Well, after listening to me, and now taking some action of getting me in there to fix things, that's what he told me. He said, "You're here to fix it." He said, "If I'm not here, you're going to report to me every Friday, but if I'm not here," he says, "you dictate your report to Marie, our secretary. I want you to be right on top. I want you to be working every day." I said, "Well, I have to work about that. I'll work." I said, "All you got to do is supply the money." And I put together, with his help, some real crackerjack people, and they deserve the credit. 2,333 units were sold in the year 1955. The day we finished the last big job, and that was a $25 million compressor. Chevrolet sold over 1 million units. Now this changed all the corporation because they had to come into that compressor with us. We went on the Cadillac, Buick, Pontiac, GMC, the whole works. And today, General Motors has the finest rated air conditioning on the market. There's no one close to it. I didn't do that. The team that worked with me did. I wish that we could have done it earlier. But this story I've told you just goes to show how long it takes sometimes to get somewhere. We went through some real rough times. I've got to tell you, we went some rough times fixing this thing. I thought I was going to have a fight with the general manager of Frigidaire. He said, "Can you imagine what Frigidaire and Fisher Body has been on the plenum of that car?" He said, "We had to sell our souls to get this done, get the tooling done." I said, "Well, isn't it time you think about building something that works?" He looked at me kind of cockeyed, but later even he became a friend. And he was a major man behind getting Fisher to really build us a plenum that would work the way it works today on air conditioning. Changing me, I said. I was brought in the Chevrolet central office. Cole told me, he says, there's no room for you in any table of organization anywhere. He says, you're going to fix the air conditioning. I said, yes, sir. He said, you're going to have a title in sales, but said, you're working for me. I understood that, and Bill Fish, the general sales manager, he knew it. Also, I didn't know it, but Cole had called a meeting of all the engineers and umpteen other people and told them he's bringing a guy who could fix the air conditioning. I said earlier that my friend Gary might be introducing the wrong fellow. I thought I was in the wrong job for a while there. Really. You know, I got the place where it's put up a shop. That's where I was. And I raised a lot of hell. Boy, out there is all coming home to haunt me. And when Cole told me what he wanted in terms of time, gosh, that's myself. 45 to my temple might not be a bad idea. I won't bore you with all the pressure that we went through, but it was pretty tight. But in 1970, found old Jim at age 52, going back to school at Michigan State University. And how smart you think you are staring at a report card when you're 52 years old. Oh, it's experience. I'd been named now Director of Forward Planning. I didn't even know what forward planning was. Well, I found out over at Michigan State, they had the number one course in forward planning. Now, forward planning, you might think this is some guy that sit up and guess what's going to happen down the road. That's not what forward planning is. Forward planning is the mechanism where you can put together a program that will happen down the road. Now, quickly, think of a man named Emmerich. Those letters, E-M-R-I-C, stands for ends, that's the objective, means, that's the procedures, R is resources, that's the money you gotta have, I is implementation, and C is control. And that's all you got. For a whole year I got 3 assists. But we were able to put those programs together. And I said it changed the corporation because the first group, the fellows that worked for me, headed by a young man named Bill Campbell, incidentally, Bill, the first time we sold our first big job, and that was a $300 million job. Saved General Motors $300 million by consolidating all the parts and accessories from all the car divisions and overseas, and started a whole new division called General Motors Service Parts Operations. Bill Camelon, who was a crackerjack, he had the first master's degree from Case University in Cleveland. And the day we sold, he quit. And I almost had to wrestle the top brass of General Motors to get this guy $30,000 coming out of school. They never paid anybody $30,000. I started for $285 a month. Here's a guy we had to pay him $30,000. But he left, he called me on the phone and said, we sold the job, I'm leaving. I said, where are you going to go? He said, well, I've just been appointed Vice President of American Airlines. So he got help in this thing. And I had to put together one more, after that consolidated job, I was given one more assignment, and that was to build an 1,100 sales organization for the new division. That's built. And I got that job done. I was 60 years old, and I told him, toodaloo, oh, Jim's gone. Tom Murphy was president. He'd been my group vice president. I reported to. He called me on the phone. He said, you know, you're either crazy as a bat, or you got so much money, you don't know what you're doing. I said, Tom, will you just sign the paper? He reminded me, I saw him at the club here a while back, and he's a year older than I am, so he's 95. He says, I'll never forget you telling me, Tom, just sign the paper. But I wanted out. I figured that I had been through the pressure pot. But look what happened. Tonight we're in 2012, 34 years after I retired. And I've been asked before I leave to conduct a question and answer period. If I haven't used up all the time. And if we can start, I'm going to ask Jerry Huff to be the moderator. He can help with keeping one question coming at a time. And I'll give him the privilege of asking the first question too as well, Jerry. I know after our 4-hour stint, you probably got some questions I haven't answered.
You know, after all the time that they spent on perfecting the air-cooled engine, was there ever any thought of using that in something else?
We had a contract with a Canadian outfit that's going to build an airplane, and they were going to replace the Lycoming engine with the CORVAIR. That's right. I don't know really what happened with that. I got so many doggone assignments coming at me at that time. I went off somewhere else, but I do know they did sell several hundred CORVAIR engines to an outfit in Oshawa, Canada.
And would you tell them about the time you got fired 3 times in one day?
Yeah. See, I was in an unusual position. I had a sales position. Up in the sales department, I was working for Cole. And I had these people, I'd been hiring engineers. I hired people without any, had no approval. I just did it. But we were under a deadline. Cole said he wanted it done in time, so I was going to blame it on him if anything happened. Well, we rolled. But I had a title up in sales of National Manager of Truck Accessories and Service Accessories. Now, truck accessories, you understand what that is, but service accessories meant all the chemicals. And General Motors had quite a lengthy list of chemicals at that time. It was good enough to be worth $300 million a year. That's how much business we got from all these chemicals. Well, we had a National Parts and Accessory Manager by the name of I.W. Thompson. Thompson loved, he had an ego a mile long. He loved to go to the executive dining room every day and tell all the guys at his table how many millions of radios he'd bought, and how many of this he'd bought, and how many so forth. The only thing about that was that I just happened to look at the past year's surplus, and my gosh, how could anybody buy on that kind of basis? So I sat down and wrote a little program. I got one of the IBM guys, and we wrote a program to buy the accessories. It was simple. It was simple. You know, what you got in inventory, what's your guide figure on the item, and buy the difference. Now, he found out about that. He called me in his office and he says, "You're fired." I said, "Thank you, I had a job when I saw this one." And I went back to my little office and started packing my stuff. Down comes his secretary, Dottie Smith. She says, "Mr. Jones, you've got to go down there. He wants to talk to you right now." Okay, I went back down there. We started in again, and he says, you know, you have some good ideas, but just this, and you've done this to me, you're fired. And I said, okay, second time. I went back to the office, I was just about had all the stuff back in those boxes. We had a black boy that worked the floor there, and he brought me some boxes, and I was putting these boxes together. He brought me some tape. I'm happy. I had a job before I had that one. Here comes Dottie. Tears rolling down her face. Oh, if you don't come this time, he's going to fire me. I said, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to see you fired. I'm going back one more time, but I'm going to tell that joker. I'm going to tell him all this time. I went back down there, and on the way I said, oh, I've got a better idea. No need for me to wheel in him. I've got an idea. I said, Mr. Thompson, it's hard for me to understand how a man with a title like you've got, and you can't even get a little old guy like me a raise. Oh, he says, who says I can't get you a raise? And boy, he rushed out there, and he said, Miss Smith, get me the paper. And he went down the hall. He got Bill Fisher, general sales manager, to sign the paper. Downstairs, he went and got Cole to sign the paper. Went into Norm Ellis, the personnel director, got him to sign it. Came back up and threw the paper right down in front of me and said, who said I couldn't get you a raise? So that's the story. Fired 3 times one morning.
Does anyone else have any questions for Joe?
How was your quality assurance on your air conditioning when you were going through the process? How did you determine your tolerances and stuff like that to keep it comfortable for the vehicle at the 1 to 3 or 4 different levels that you had?
Put together a nice group of people that know more than you do. That's how we did it. Yes, sir.
At this point in time, as relates to the Corvair was kind of chasing either the Porsche or the Volkswagen, depending on your opinion of the Corvair. And the air conditioning in a Volkswagen, I believe, preceded the Corvair air conditioning.
Air conditioning, see, came out in 1954.
Yeah.
In the fall of '54. It was already on Oldsmobile the year prior.
Okay.
We also had umpteen outside manufacturers getting in the act, mainly in trunk units. They were building and putting the evaporator core and the fans and everything in the trunk.
Okay. What it relates to the Corvair?
But related to the Corvair came later. I came into Chevrolet Central Office in 1957.
Air conditioning wasn't available in 1960 when it was.
1962.
2 or 3.
At least 2 or 3.
I know.
1960, there was no accessories.
Was that chasing Volkswagen at that time? And in other words, was air
The
conditioning?
first year we didn't have any accessories whatsoever, and we had to put that appendage on to get even a radio. We went through HE-double-L with a heater, I can tell you that. And between some arm twisting, South Bend, Harrison radiator, and Frigidaire, we got that gasoline sucker on the car.
I hear your stories about working for GM. I was on the other side of the fence selling for GM, so it wasn't any easier over there. But GM was always in a position to lead, not to follow, and they were chasing Volkswagen at this point in time.
Well, let's talk about the mindset for just a moment. What we had in air conditioning, we had a Southwest and South that the dealers all wanted air conditioning. The public wanted air conditioning. It was hot down there. Up north, it was cold, cool. I could tell you a long story about the 16 dealers we had in Alaska, about the heater. Whew, that's a good one. But we had two things working against each other. And then when we did get the North going, it had to be done with a merchandising program that had to be designed. And you know what we did? We gave every man a bottle of rubbing alcohol. Gave him a big canister of a bomb that you sprayed. All the bombs of those days were filled with Freon. That was propellant. The only propellant that they had was Freon. They were instructed, whole field organization, to go in the dealers and spray all around in the dealer's office. Dealers say, "My God, what are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I'm filling your office with Freon." Because all the dealers were scared to death of Freon. Freon wouldn't hurt a soul unless you put fire with it. You put fire to dichlorofluoromethane, you had a real booger. But we had two parts of the country diametrically opposed about their wants. So when that caused a lot of problems up with the sales department, also caused them not to pay too good attention to my letters. See, I'd come out of the Southwest. I started in Albuquerque with 21 dealers. I went into the zone with 91 dealers. I was transferred to Oklahoma City with 270 dealers, and then into a region with over 700. So, you know, I've gone through the Southwest. Any other questions? If not, thank you very, very much.
On behalf of the club, I'd like to present a CORVAIR T-shirt to you.
Thank you, sir.
And wear it proudly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's time for 50-50.
Anybody need any more tickets?
Sir. Do one more.